Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our webinar, Massive Growth Opportunity in Indonesia EV Industry, hosted by PT Suryacipta Swadaya. PT Suryacipta Swadaya, a member of Suryacipta Group, develops and manages two industrial estates, Suryacipta City of Industry and Subang Smartpolitan in West Java, Indonesia. This webinar is also provided in Mandarin language. You can click the globe icon under your Zoom screen. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Putri Gwita. I'm your host for today. And I'd like to greet our panelists who have joined us today. Mr. Denny W. Kurnia, Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Shanghai. Mr. Muhammad Isan, Head of Section for Land Transportation Industry Empowerment. Mr. Iwan Cahaya, Chief Executive Officer PT Suat Energy Indonesia. Mr. Purwo Andoko, Representative Arrival for Southeast Asia, Mr. Albert Hartanto, Project Officer Subang Smartpolitan. This webinar will be divided into 4 sessions. First session is opening. Second session is material presentation by our panelists. Third session is Q&A, and fourth session is closing. The theme of our webinar today is Massive Growth Opportunity in Indonesia EV Industry. As we all know, the Indonesia government has set ambitious targets and seek to become the electric vehicle production hub in the region. Indonesia have world largest nickel reserve, and this will be leveraged for Indonesia to become a key player in the global supply chain of lithium-ion battery in line with the growing EV industry. The government has also issued a so-called EV roadmap detailing various incentives to attract more investment in the rapidly growing EV industry. Before we get started, if you have any question, please do not hesitate to drop them at the Q&A feature below with format, name, company or media, question, and to whom the question is addressed to. The question will be answered in the Q&A session. Without any further ado, we would like to begin the webinar by welcoming Mr. Denny Kurnia, from the Consulate General of the Republic of Indonesia in Shanghai to give the opening speech. Please, Mr. Denny Kurnia.
Thank you very much. Let me first of all thank the organizer and the Ministry of Industry for these opportunities. This is a privilege that I will become part of this discussion. Certainly, from the place I stand, this topic is very much to my liking. Translate? Is it a direct translate or should I wait for translation?
You can click the interpretation.
Oh, continue, yeah, continue. There is simultaneous interpretation already.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will continue without stopping, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, certainly the role of consulates, embassies, representatives, government representatives overseas is to facilitate, to help business to flourish, and therefore we stand ready to be your partner to ask to give any answers if we can, whenever anybody business needs to know. In terms of my coverage relating to the eastern part of China, I can see that the future of EV is so bright. So every time we see how China develops in terms of sales and productions of electric cars, and then we can be assured that Indonesia would have similar pathways because we have plenty of similarities Indonesia has 70 million inhabitants with growing purchasing powers that may be similar to the process of China since 20 years ago with the development of policies in favor of the electric vehicles. And every time we watch, as a result of the leaders meeting of COP, the last one being in Glasgow, then we can see that this business is not just important, but also inevitable. So it's a must by, let's say, 2050, all vehicles would have been using new energy battery, and it applies hopefully 2060, 10 years later for developing countries, and so on and so forth. So what we are talking about here is the issue which really relates to the fate of the future. Now, Indonesia, you will see that is the country which will be among the center growth and center point of this industry. The next speakers would certainly put that in details. So to me, if I may list a few, it's because there is natural resources that Indonesia could offer to you, and there is large population and the increasing quality of human resources as well as purchasing power that supports it. And then Indonesia has a open strategic trade arrangements with plenty of countries, including within ASEAN, A3, the ASEAN Trade in Goods Agreement, and then ASEAN plus the dialogue partners agreements, the RCEP, etc. So we are sitting right in the middle of the global open trade arrangements which would make the business, including vehicle business, lucrative to sit in Indonesia's territory. Also, investment regime, which is increasingly very updated. So the last omnibus law will certainly serve investors and the country and the business to make everything moves faster. And we can see that proof even in the early years of Indonesia's new openness paradigm. If we look at, for instance, Indonesia's trade with China in the first semester this year, already jumping more than 50%. That is really a good example how things gets better due to the better relationship and awareness of Indonesian business vis-a-vis Chinese as well as other countries in East Asia as well as all over the world. So that increasing trend could also be seen in investment figures. So in sum, ladies and gentlemen, let me again reiterate our readiness to help you, to help business, to facilitate, because that is the role that we are tasked by the government and the leadership. So there is embassy in Beijing, consulate general in Shanghai, Guangzhou, Hong Kong, and Indonesian Trade Promotion Center in Shanghai. So as far as the government's Indonesia's overseas government support can do to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Denny Kurnia, for your opening speech. For the next session, is material presentation regarding policy on the Indonesia automotive industry to support EV industry that will be presented by Mr. Muhammad Isan. Second presentation, Indonesia needs EV, that will be presented by Mr. Irwan Cahaya. Third presentation, entering the region through Indonesia, that will be presented by Mr. Purwo Handoko. And the last presentation, massive growth opportunity in Indonesia EV industry. So for the first presentation, please, Mr. Muhammad Isan, to present your presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Putri, for the time. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning, Pak Ponjen, Pak Denny Kurnia, and also good morning our speaker in here, Pak Irwan, Pak Purwo, Pak Ebert. First of all, I would like to apologize because our DG, Pak Taufik Wazir, is not able to attend this webinar because he is accompanying our minister to Germany and Dubai. So please allow me to deliver his presentation. And we also want to thank to Suryacipta to give us the opportunity to share information about the policy on the Indonesia automotive industry to support the EV industry. I would like to start the presentation with sharing information about Indonesia automotive industry overview. Indonesia has a large number of manufacturers, both of two-wheeler or four-wheeler. For four-wheeler, we have 21 manufacturer, and for two-wheeler, we have 31 manufacturer. With massive investment along this supply chain of automotive industry manufacturer. And also, this industry absorbs so many manpower. Actually, along this supply chain of the automotive industry, we have 1.5 million manpower from the manufacturer itself, tier 1, tier 2, and the dealer. Also, Indonesia is the largest motor vehicle market in ASEAN. Indonesia have a huge population, around 270 million inhabitants, as Pak Denny already said before. And we have a chance with the low car ratio in Indonesia. Indonesia is have 99 car per 100,000 population, so it is a great chance to future growth. The car sales in Indonesia are mostly priced around 200 and 300 million rupiah. That's influenced by Indonesia GDP. That's still around 4,000 US dollar. Next slide, please. As our president commitment in COP 21st in Paris year 2015 to reduce the CO2 emission by 2030 about 29% or 41% with the help from the global. Indonesia already established some regulation to achieve the target. We already have the presidential regulation number 55 year 2019 regarding the electric acceleration of electric vehicle in Indonesia, and we also recently established the regulation number 74 year 2021 that revised the government regulation number 3073 year 2019. That's the main idea of the revision is to give more advantage to EV manufacturer. That we know EV is produce a zero CO2 emission, so that the price disparity between the EV and conventional vehicle is become lower, so the consumer will interest to buy the EV because recently we know that the price of EV is still 30% for until 50% higher than the conventional vehicle. Next slide, please. Now allow me to share information about the roadmap of EV in Indonesia. As mandated by Presidential Regulation number 55 year 2019, Indonesia has stipulated the EV development roadmap through the Ministry of Industry Regulation number 27 year 2020 regarding the technical specification, EV roadmap, and local content calculation. Indonesia also set the target to develop EV main component industry such as battery, electric motor, and inverter. As you may know, our president is already launching the groundbreaking of electric battery manufacturer last month. In this presentation, we can also see the stepping of the manufacturer for the EV. You can implement the CKD first until 2024, and then implement the IKD until 2026, and part by part until 2030. Next slide, please. To accelerate the development of EV in Indonesia, after do the evaluation, do discussion among stakeholders, Ministry of Industry proposed a new concept of local content calculation that will make the manufacturer can accelerate their investment in Indonesia. There is some relaxation in this new proposal. This new proposal will revise the Ministry of Industry Regulation number 27 year 2020 before. But this is still a proposal. We should have to discuss it and need have to be agreed among within the other stakeholder. In this new proposal, we give more proportion into the assembly and the R&D, so that the manufacturer can start manufacture to achieve the local content 40% in 2022. Next slide, please. We also want to create the EV ecosystem in Indonesia. After we set the roadmap and target, quantitative target of production EV in Indonesia, for the four-wheeler, we set the target about 40,000 production in 2025, 60,000 in 2030, and 1 million in 2035. And also, we already set the target for two-wheelers. Recently, we already have 3 companies that produce the electric bus in Indonesia. But in 2022, there will be 2 more additional manufacturer, but in the passenger car, maybe you already hear in the media, 2 manufacturer will be assembly the passenger car in Indonesia in 2022. And we already have 22 manufacturer for the electric motorcycle. And also, we do the pilot project and demonstration to popularize the electric vehicle in Indonesia, so that the consumer will be interested to use the electric vehicle. And also, the government already established the incentive both of will enjoy by the customer or the manufacturer. Next slide, please. To popularize EV in Indonesia and also to absorb the EV from the production of EV manufacturer in Indonesia, the government is also established the roadmap of use of BEV in a government institution. We also propose the BEV to be added in the e-catalog in LKPP, so the government institution can consider or obligate to buy the EV for their operational vehicle. That's all my presentation. I will give the floor back to the MC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Isan. Continue to the second presentation, Indonesia needs EV, that will be presented by Mr. Irwan Cahaya. Please, Mr. Irwan.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and thanks to the host, and welcome also other members from the Ministry of Industry and also Pak Purwo. Good morning, everyone. Today, I would like to discuss why Indonesia needs EV. Okay, the first. Indonesia needs EV. The reason why Indonesia needs EV is that Indonesia is rich in the resources that's needed in the material for battery for the EV. And also the second reason is that we import a lot of oil from other countries that causing the deficit budget every year. That's causing a lot of inflation. I would like to say that maybe Indonesia is one of the countries there's a problem with its currency that's depreciating almost every year. It's mainly due caused by a lot of imports of products. One of the biggest product is actually oil. And also one of the third reason is Indonesia is one of the member that signed the Paris Agreement that's committed to reduce the carbon emission starting from 2020 and targeting a zero emission in 2060. This is all has to be achieved for the sake of the everyone actually living in this world. Okay, next. Okay, if you look at the figures here, 120 million of motorcycles in Indonesia is, I would say, is crazy. I would say is maybe one or two countries in this world that has such a huge population in motorcycles. These all emitted carbon dioxide every day. That's causing the pollution in big cities like Jakarta and mostly in Java. So government has a target to replace this 120 million of motorcycles into EV. So I would say the potential of EV in Indonesia, you can tell from this number if you look talk about the two-wheelers. And by converting this ICE motorcycle into EV, the Indonesia has an opportunity to join the wave of the world in transition into the EV and also participate in this electric vehicles technology. Okay, next. So here I would like to introduce what the future of mobility in Indonesia will be like, especially for two-wheelers. Let's play the video. This is a company that we are doing focusing on
air pollution, threats to human health and environmental damage. One of the main causes of air pollution in Indonesia comes from the internal combustion motorcycles. The government has been promoting electric motorcycles, but the result is far from expectation. One of the main issues is the small battery capacity and long charging time that create range anxiety for the riders. Today, Swap Energy Indonesia provides solution with battery swap system. Riders can get their motorcycles recharged within seconds. Swap Battery is integrated with an application which provides lots of information such as swap point locations, operational hours, and batteries availabilities. The Swap Battery weighs 12 kilograms. One fully charged battery can go up to maximum distance of 60 kilometers. The process of manufacturing swap point machine has gone through a series of qualification tests carried out with the latest technology. With unlimited mileage, Swap Battery serves as a stress-free solution for electric motor riders. When the battery is low, riders can go to the nearest swap point and exchange their battery for a fully charged one. The battery exchange process is free and only takes 9 seconds. The IoT battery management system control the safety and the right current of the battery. This prevents battery from overheating and maintaining performance. Riders can ride motorbikes safely and conveniently. In addition to location checking, other features are also available to provide information about the motor and the battery. Riders can view the history of travel and battery exchange and do top up before continuing the trip. Swap points are located at strategic places and easily accessible by motor riders. Swap Energy Indonesia is here to provide the electric motorbike riders confident and comfortable ride experience throughout their journey. Air pollution threats to human.
Okay. That video was an introduction of our company that our energy company that we provide infrastructure with such energy to two-wheelers in a very simple way. Okay, so our business model is very simple. That we don't want to create any extra hassle for the users. Make it very simple. The users only have to pay the energy is converted into a distance in the units of kilometers. Next. So why swap? Okay, our company has always believed that, we never believe in charging two-wheelers, okay? It's different from four-wheelers because the battery pack in the four-wheelers is very big. You can travel a very 300 or 500 kilometers for every time you charge a battery. While for two-wheelers, the battery is quite small. So you got to be able to solve this range anxiety when you go out of your home to the office. You got to be able to come back home. So this is the reason why we never believe in charging. One of the reasons is also that when you go out, you want to find a charging spot. It's not easy. You can't just plug into somebody's office or parking spot and charge your EV. It's gonna take hours. But even for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, okay, it will be a problem. If you imagine the population of 120 million wasting 10 minutes of charging, then how long will the queue will be? Next. Okay, this is one of our products that we use a swap system for the electric motorcycle, for the battery. The Smooth is a smart electric motorcycle. We call it smart because it's connected to our server. So they use a swap technology, of course, because it's our product, and it's integrated with a smartphone. You can actually nowadays a lot of people you can see a lot of activities, the conditions of the bike, the locations of the bike, or you can even disable it. This is much easier for finance company to look at if there's a NPL from the users. Next. Okay. What we see the trends here is that we believe that in the future, if there's enough swap system available in the cities or rural areas, that we believe that charging will become a very big issue. So we believe that in order to solve this, to make this transition from conventional motorcycle into electric vehicles of two-wheelers, it has to be, we have to offer a very simple way of refilling or continuing the journey. So we believe that swap will solve the problem because it's time efficiency and it solves the range anxiety. And also there's if we know that for two-wheelers that actually that if you buy the EV with a battery, you charge it at home, you got to replace the battery every 1 or 2 years. And the cost is like 5 or 7 million rupiah, which is very costly for Indonesian riders especially. And also we provide a very simple way of recharging the energy. The payment, the business model is all cashless. It's just like when you buy a package of mobile phone through your mobile phone, it's like almost no time. Within a second, you can make your payment. And the last thing is very important is centralized battery for recycle. So we are the operator of the battery. So we can actually collect all those non-performing battery into our warehouse and we can repair it, or at the end of the day, we are the one who can recycle. If you come to a volume, like you can recycle 100, 1,000 or 10,000 units of battery, that will be much more efficient rather than a user buy a battery and charge at home. Then if the battery is not performing well or is broken, then they wouldn't have a time to care how to fix the battery because it's only one piece. But when it's centralized, it matters. Okay, this is we have tried launched our bike for almost 4 months into the market, and this the feedback from the riders. They are happy, enthusiastic, and we are actually making sales every day. It's a good sign. So our company, Smooth and Swap, we hope that we can be one of the major players. Of course, we cannot be the only one here. That we will coexist with other players in the industry. So we hope that we can help the government to to make this transition to EV even faster than what is planned. Okay, it starts from you. So let's go electric. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Irwan from Swap Energy Indonesia. We continue to the third presentation, entering the region through Indonesia, that will be presented by Mr. Purwo Handoko from Merauke.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. So actually, it's not the time for arrival to speak actually, but Subang Smartpolitan really pushed me to speak. So let's begin with the video from our CEO.
I'm getting this question like why Rival is different many times, and I would say that actually everything is different. People, culture, technologies we are using, materials, components, method of manufacturing. The only thing which probably similar to other companies is that our products called van and bus, but everything else is different. Automotive industry, in the way how it is now, was developing for more than 100 years, and it was a lot of innovations and a lot of optimization with the process. And today we believe that industry is on the maximum level of efficiency. What we understood today that it's not enough, because we still get vehicles which are expensive and that are not sustainable. And that's why we started Arrival in January 2015 with the idea to reinvent the way vehicles are made.
And one of the things that makes our approach different is our microfactory approach to assembling and manufacturing vehicles. A microfactory is a much, much simpler process as compared to a legacy automotive manufacturing plant. A typical automotive assembly plant takes literally years to construct. We can do that whole thing in 6 months or less. So it's maybe 1/6 the amount of time and maybe 1/10 of the CapEx, if that.
The vehicle, the way how they design today, cannot be assembled by microfactories. Vehicle must be designed to be assembled by microfactories. If you take a normal car today, only to make the body system, you need to have at least 1,000 robots. In our case, all assembly process is less than 70 robots.
The brief was really clear from the start. How do we build vehicles at price parity with a conventional diesel vehicle? Now, what that means when you're putting a large, expensive, heavy battery into a vehicle is that you need to make the body system lighter and lower cost. If you were to take a conventional steel panel and compare it to ours, then we're less than half the weight. The materials that we're developing are thermoplastic-based composites, and we can recycle those an infinite number of times. We have far higher ductility, and what that means is the panel rebounds from impact. So rather than having to repair or replace, our panels actually survive much longer out in the field, massively reducing the potential repair bills for our customers.
When you look at our elements components, they're modular. They're based on a 10 by 10 grid. They're stackable. They're plug and play. It's amazing. Designing our products ourselves, owning the IP, giving us the ability to upgrade that, prioritize the products that we need. It's easy installation, easy replacement, agility for the future.
We invented grid-based components, new material technologies to do the body systems, and a new software to manage our factories, and also in-vehicle software. So if you combine all those things together, microfactories, components, materials, and the software, those are enabling technologies which makes it possible to make best-in-class vehicles.
We always get the question, why commercial vehicles first? And it's actually because it's an underserved market. So right now you have very few vehicles that you can go and get, and you're not able to do anything bespoke or custom with those vehicles. You get what you get. It's a market that cares about the total cost of operating, which electric vehicles enable, and Arrival further enhances that. And then it's a growing market. It's a large segment. There's 2 million vans by 2025, a total addressable market over 280 billion. And Arrival has the best-in-class product. We're able to scale rapidly. We're able to really use the technologies to enable these customers to improve their operations. We can work with cities and customers, and we can create those at any volume, again, using the same microfactory. So it's a win-win on both sides.
It's a perfect time for companies like us to step into this industry and actually change it. We found a way how to break the rule of economy of scale. We have much better product, green product, but it also has better pricing as well. And this perfect combination where you don't need to have a compromise between being green or being efficient. So with our products, it comes together.
So I would like to summarize what my CEO explained in the video. Actually, Arrival is a UK company, was founded in 2015, starting from the startup companies. And Arrival is developing commercial vehicles because we believe in the future and trend that use EV without owning them. So that is why We are just closed the deal with the UPS for 10,000 van, and also collaborating with the Ubers in UK and US to develop a mini van. We have 2 factories right now in UK and then 2 factories in USA. In 2019, Hyundai, LG, Kia, and BlackRock joining the owning of the arrivals. And in 2020s, we are listed in Nasdaq. At that time, we aiming to have like $5 billion in the market, but with 7 days, we achieve capitalization on the $17 billion. So it's really surprising. So so now currently we are preparing penetrate in Southeast Asia regions through Indonesia as a home base. Why? Because we have a final approach with our neighbor countries. Well, Singapore, in 2024, they will replace all the bus transportation in Singapore with our products. That is why we are closely choose the microfactories in Indonesia. Just keep it because I think everybody knows about these things. So let's skip to the last to make it short. So this is the planning of arrivals in 2022. We will open the representative office in Bali for the Southeast Asia. So why Bali? Because Bali is nice. People will enjoy to meet in Bali across Southeast Asia. I stay in Bali, to be honest. So very subjective that we are choosing Bali. But I think everybody from around the world, including Jakarta, will be very happy if we meet in Bali. So, and then at the second phase, we will gather the pilot projects in Bali, collaborating with the Bali provincial government to make an EV roadmap or blueprint in Bali. Also, why Bali? Because the only province that already launched the governor degree of the green transportation is only Bali. Not Jakarta, not West Java, but luckily Bali, the only province who already have the governor's degree. And then we are aiming in 2022, mid of 2022, we will have 1 microfactory in Subang Smartpolitan. We choose Subang because it's in Java, close to the airport and close to the seaport. So that's all. The arrival will be in 2022. Thank you, and hopefully the government and everybody can support us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Purwahandoko. I would like to inform you if you have any question, please do not hesitate to drop them at the Q&A feature below with format, name, company or media, question, and to whom the question is addressed to. So we are going to continue to the last presentation, massive growth opportunity in Indonesia EV industry, that will be presented by Mr. Albert Hartanto.
Morning. Thank you to all the previous speakers and all the participants for attending. For my part, I'll be looking at Indonesia and exploring why Indonesia may be right for EV. Indonesia is the largest country in Southeast Asia by area, by population, and by GDP. It also has the 4th largest population in the world. The graphs here shows the numbers and the trajectory. From here, we can see that Indonesia is indeed poised for growth. please. Let's take a look at the population concentration. In Indonesia, the majority is located within the island of Java. The island constitutes 56% of the population and 59% of the total GDP. The most populated region is West Java, with 90% of the population living between Jakarta and Bandung. The local trend here is that many workers live in this region and they commute to work to Jakarta or Bandung. Just a quick comparison against the other ASEAN nations. Solely based on size, population, and GDP, Indonesia is very far ahead, and it's not even close. Next, please. I think in the context of EV as an emerging technology, we have to consider who our potential customers are, who has the willingness to accept this new mode of transportation, and do they have the necessary purchasing power. As seen here, more than half of the country's population are between the ages of 8 and 39. And if we look at the time frame for EV, in the short, medium, and long term, this age group will make up a significant portion of the customer base. In addition, the graph on the right also shows that Indonesia's middle class has nearly doubled within the last decade and is expected to grow even further. This translates to an increase in purchasing power. I want to highlight West Java in particular. I believe that this region has a supporting infrastructure with strong economic potential. It is connected via a network of toll roads that provides easy access all around. In addition, it is of proximity to the automotive corridor, the Patiman Seaport, and the Kertajati International Airport. There's also a network of railroads and planned high-speed trains. And finally, the Rebana Metropolitan is here. What exactly is the Rebana Metropolitan? It's basically the government's initiative to expand the industrial corridor. Touted as the future economic hub of Indonesia, it is made of 13 destinations from 6 regencies, with the Smart City project in West Subang being the first. Not to mention, the Patiman Seaport and the Kertajati Airport is also located within. I mentioned the automotive corridor earlier, and this will give you a better picture of what I meant. So the line represents the toll road, and there's quite a few prominent automotive manufacturers within this region. Along with them, their suppliers will also be around here, making the area complete with an automotive ecosystem supported by the supply chain. These areas are around the Kerawang and Subang regencies. The current automotive industry is dominated by large Japanese manufacturers. In this order, Toyota, Daihatsu, Honda, Mitsubishi, and Suzuki. Together, they hold nearly 90% of the total market in Indonesia. I think this also reflects a delicate situation in our transition to EV. As it is, the industry plays such a massive role in our economy, and the transition must be done with caution. Yet, as it is with any disruptive technology such as EV, change is inevitable, and it will happen sooner or later. This is a projection of where we see EV going. It is basically due to economies of scales. With volume and time, prices will drop, and technology and infrastructure will catch up, and subsequently, adoption will rise. Currently, the amount of EV is still relatively small, but it's projected that by 2040, over half of the passenger vehicles sold will be electric. Here, Indonesia is ranked 4th by the number of public chargers to EV. But rather than signifying an established infrastructure in Indonesia, it reflects a low number of electric vehicles. I think Indonesia must concede to the fact that for EV, it is nowhere as mature as some of the more advanced countries, such as China. Yet, I believe this is exactly where the opportunities are. Entering a growth market and a mature market are different games altogether, with the former offering more opportunities to gain momentum and market share early. This map shows the distribution of charging stations in Indonesia. You can see that the growth has been rather vigorous, with the number nearly quadrupling since the end of last year. By this data, more than 67%, or about 2/3 of the charging stations are in West Java, Jakarta, and Bandung. The concentration of charging stations also indicates that currently this is where the EVs are and where their customers are based. Nickel is definitely worth looking into because, as seen here, nearly half of the cost of an EV comes from the battery, where nickel is the primary ingredient. Even in the medium term, this will still be the defining component in the cost of EV. However, as mentioned before, adoption will have an inverse relationship to the cost. Right now, 6 companies are responsible for 86% of the world batteries. And the Indonesian government has made an initiative by establishing the Indonesian Battery Corporation, or IBC, and they are already partnering with some of the biggest players. For consumers, price will always be one of the most important factors that determines the purchase. A study estimates that for EV to become competitive relative to the typical internal combustion engine, the price of battery packs per kilowatt hour needs to be around the $100 mark. That being said, the number has been decreased as seen here, and we expect to achieve equilibrium relatively soon. It has also been mentioned early on that Indonesia holds the world's largest nickel reserves. The government is definitely leveraging this to encourage local production of EV goods. As you may have already heard, some global leading enterprises are already entering the market. Finally, Indonesia has not only the world's largest nickel reserve, but we're also the world's largest nickel producer. Here is a quick comparison with the other producers and the other countries. Essentially, at this point of time, we're responsible for 23% of all the nickel produced. That's it from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Albert. So, dear ladies and gentlemen, we are now starting the Q&A session. We already have some question here. First question is for Ministry of Industry. What other incentive or assistance is the Indonesia government providing for potential EV investors?
Okay, thank you for the question. If I may, can we back to the slide number 6? Yes. Next presentation, I think. Okay, if this is about to show the presentation, as the I mentioned before, the government is already established so many incentives to both of a consumer or the manufacturer itself. For the manufacturer, the government already established the incentive like tax holidays. The manufacturer can enjoy the 0% taxation in the certain periods, and also in compared to their amount of investment. And also we have a mini tax holiday. This when the manufacturer have a more lower investment than before. And also in the new regulation, proposed regulation, we give some relaxation for achievement of local content to produce the electric vehicle. Thank you.
Okay, for the second questions for Ministry of Industry. In EV industry, particularly for the long term, are we only support for spare parts instead of take as a role as main player?
Thank you for the question. As the roadmap of that we mentioned before, we want to become a player who produce the electric vehicle itself, and also we want to produce the component that support the electric vehicle itself, such as a battery, electric motor, and inverter. So we not only want to provide the spare part, but we also want to produce the electric vehicle and the component itself. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Isan. There's a question for arrival.
Okay.
Has there been any approach for arrival EV used for public transportation, like Transjakarta? Not necessarily for locally assembled fleet, but probably the imported ones?
Well, actually, our strategy was to build the microfactory in every province or every regions. So we do not want to import it. We want to build it from zero, from the scratch in the regions. Actually, we are not yet approaching companies such like Transjakarta or Damri, but officially, but unofficially we are talking to them. But again, our microfactory in Indonesia actually will be dedicated not only for Indonesia, but for our neighbor country. Of course, we are very happy to collaborate with locals, with Indonesians, with Jakarta. We are planning to approach them as soon as we have official representative office in Indonesia, in Bali. We have a very we are look into the opportunities with Transjakarta, but not only Transjakarta. We have a very we are looking also for other city like Surabaya, for example, and then Bali, and also Bandung or West Java. Not only bus transportation, but also minivan transportations. Because we are not only producing a bus, but also van and minivan. We also now approaching one of the courier companies in Indonesia. I cannot mention that right now, but we are closing to have a deal with them. But also, if you look into the arrivals portfolios, that in the first stage coming to the regions, we will give like a trials to the stakeholders, like to the governments, to probably to Transjakarta, probably to Damri, to the governments, provincial governments, to the ministries, you know. Then after that, we will take a feedback on it. You know, it's happening in UK. In 2026, we give kind of like 3 minivan to the Royal Mails, and also before we close deal with the UPS in 2019, we give like a 35 trials to the UPS. That is why we got the contract after that, 10,000 van contracts. I think that answered the question, right?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Purwo. And then the next question is for Mr. Irwan Cahaya from SWAP. First question is, smooth electric motorcycle produced by SWAP as well. When was the motorcycle start to offer to the consumer? That's the first question. And then the second question, how much the kilometers maximum if the SWAP battery is fully charged?
Okay. We started to offer motorcycles to consumers on this August through online platform Blibli and through our own website. And every single battery, when it's fully charged, they can run up to 60 kilometers of distance. So yeah, it all depends on the behavior, ranging from 50 to 60 kilometers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Irwan. And then the next question is for Arrival.
Okay.
When the groundbreaking of microfactory in Subang? And the second question for in Bali, is Arrival and Bali province government already collaborate to release this product?
Okay. Actually, we are targeting to have kind of like a groundbreaking in the mid of 2022. But before that, we will have kind of like a representative office for the Southeast Asia in Bali. We targeted in January or February at least. With Bali provincial government, we are talking quite close because, like I said before, that the governor of Bali really want to push on the Bali as a green islands. So they asked us to collaborate to make a roadmap and blueprint. But we will wait after we have a very we have a step in the ground in Bali. That is why actually it's not really good time now actually for arrival for me to speak in front of everybody's. But since the Subang Smartpolitan really want push me to speak, so I'm able to speak, because arrival is a smart kind of things, and then Subang also have a smart metropolitan. So we are here, Thank you.
Okay. The next question is for Mr. Albert. Looking at West Java, which specific area is the best equipped for EV foreign investor in terms of infrastructure and incentives?
Okay, so thank you for that question. So if I were an investor, I'd be looking at three things: customer, competitiveness, and price. Based on this, it has to be around the automotive corridor, because here the relevant customers are nearby and reachable. It will be competitive because it will be efficient with the supply chain, the accessibility, and the supporting infrastructure all in the vicinity. But looking at the size of the potential investment and labor costs, the sites that are closer to Jakarta are going to be more expensive. So if I were to pick the best candidate right now, based on these three things, it's going to have to be Subang. I think it's also worth mentioning that the region in Subang Smartpolitan is also applying for a special economic zone. And that constitutes a whole new variety of incentives and support. I won't go into detail here, but if you want to know more, send us an email and we can go from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Albert. The next question is for Ministry of Industry. What support to provide at this moment and in the future from government to support private company to support of EV charging infrastructure?
Okay, thank you for the question, but actually this question is not for Ministry of Industry, but more to Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, because the charging system is under responsibility of Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources. But maybe we would like to share some information. PLN, the state-owned company, already established the electric price, special electric price for the whom wants to provide the charging for the electric vehicle. But the information I cannot share for you because this is not our responsibility. Thank you.
One more question. Is there any direction from government about the area that dedicated to develop EV industry as agglomeration area, so that will make player easier to accelerate the productivity? Example, West Java area, Eastern Corridor.
Thank you for the question. For this time, there's no direction from the government where to produce the electric vehicle, as long as you produce it in the in industrial estate.
Yes.
You can choose the industrial estate that based in West Java or Central Java or East Java. We already have so many industry that produce electric vehicle in Central Java, such as a Kota or something other industry, and we also have industry who produce electric vehicle in East Java. So there's no direction. You can choose whenever you like to choose the industrial estate.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Iwan, we have another question. How much production capacity in Indonesia for battery or infrastructure and two-wheel vehicle? How much the value of investment to 5 years later?
Okay. The capacity. Okay, we are at the moment we are assembling the motorcycles in Indonesia. So it's a CKD for the motorcycles, and the battery. The first batch is still imported from. Is still imported, and we are planning to do it. The assembly for the battery next year. The assembly capacity for a battery is quite simple. They don't need a big space. I think you can go from 1,000 or a few tens of thousands every month when the market is there. And the charging station, the swap station is also planning to move it here next year for the cabinet, and some of the components are still imported. We still don't know the capacity of the cabinet. We're still negotiating with the supplier in Indonesia. How much investment will be made? We're planning to deploy infrastructures of swap stations in Indonesia, starting from Jakarta. We'll try to cover 500 locations in Jakarta this year, and 100 locations in Bali also this year, and early next year 100 locations in Surabaya as well, and will follow by other cities in Java.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Iwan. There's one more question. From the perspective of an EV company, how do you see the Indonesia market in the short, medium, and long term?
Okay, I would say the short one, we are gaining attraction, and is quite the attraction is improving every month, is quite significant. I would say the sign is good. And in long term, I would say the world, everyone is moving to EV. Like what we mentioned earlier, that moving to EV is actually inevitable. With such population of 270 millions in Indonesia, I would say that for two-wheelers player, the potential is huge. Okay? I would say it's one of the biggest market in the world.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Iwan.
Thank you.
And the last question for Mr. Albert. How many companies that have commitment to ready to build a manufacture in 2021 and to the 5 next year?
So is this for Subang Smartpolitan, I'm assuming? Yeah, so actually we're having some serious talks with a few companies that includes from the medical industry, from the entertainment industry. I'm talking about retail shopping outlets and certain theme parks. I can't disclose the name right now, but we are in serious talks, and I expect them to be happening soon, but they have yet been finalized due to the COVID issues and the traveling restrictions. So that's the unfortunate part. So I believe that's the question. What else? Sorry.
How many companies that had commitment to ready to build a manufacturer and from 2021 to the 5 next year?
From 2021 to next year, if you're talking about Subang Smartpolitan, as I have said, in terms of firm commitment, we have yet to have it. This is due to because of the restriction in COVID and things like that. But we are gaining traction in the medical industry, in the entertainment industry, and the shopping industry, as well as some big players in the industrial that has already been quite close in in committing to us to build their big manufacturing plant in Smartpolitan.
Thank you, Mr. Albert. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the final session. Thank you for joining today. We understand that this session might not have answered all your queries. And should you need further information or assistance, please do not hesitate to contact us via email at info@suryacipta.com. A recorded version of this webinar will also be available shortly on our YouTube channel, Suryacipta City of Industry. Once again, thank you very much for your participation. We hope that this webinar was insightful. Stay safe and stay healthy. See you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.